Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. The O-Dogs off to do the, was it regular season preview show?
Yeah, season preview show.
Season preview show.
Thought you'd be on it. That's why you're wearing a tweed coat.
This is my new go-to fall jacket.
I do like it.
Yeah, I just need some of Doogie's cologne, and then I'm basically Ron Burgundy.
Here you are.
I feel like Burgundy in this. I need a stash and a strong cologne.
That's Burgundy style.
Possibly a smoking habit and brown liquor for lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. CJ coming up here in a moment. We've got Ryan Dempster later. Baseball's been great.
Yeah.
A couple more games today. You know what? I got to give a shout out because we talked a lot about it last week. Messi played.
Yeah, he did.
He did come in. He got on the pitch.
I don't know.
Good for him. Good for Miami.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I guarantee you Joe from the Bridge could pull this up. Did you see how fast his bodyguard ran onto the field to get that kid?
Yes.
Now, apparently he's like, Israeli Special Forces, something crazy, Navy SEAL, whatever.
Isolated for him. Not even like some other guy in his team. The guy's like, I don't care what happens.
Doesn't care. It's just Messi that he focuses on. That it was the fastest I've ever seen somebody run. Like, he angled him off perfectly.
Yes.
And that kid, I like that the crowd cheered him and Messi allowed the picture.
Messi's dealt with it a lot. Ronaldo gets that a lot. Whenever they go somewhere, it's like almost not a guarantee, but it's expected someone's going to run onto the field.
Yeah. It reminded me him running. Do you remember when DK Metcalf blew through two zones, caught a guy?
Yes.
20 yards behind.
Yeah.
That's how fast he was running.
Right. It was like a pick six, and then the guy went the other way.
Yeah. That video was, I watched it 20 times.
I know. And he was all black, right? Wasn't he just decked out stealth mode in the corner and just took off?
It was unbelievable.
But that was cool to see Messi play. And obviously the end of the year for Toronto FC, and this happens all the time. There he is. Look at this guy motoring. He knows exactly what the kid, that kid is not threatening.
No.
But yet, at the same time, you have to do that. That is your job, to get out there and make sure it's all good. The kid's in a Barcelona jersey, too, to really make Messi realize, hey, this is what's going on. What I want to know is, that kid would have been there with his parents.
Yeah, so his dad.
Who let that kid jump on the field?
There's lots of parents that are going, that's, I don't know. Don't get me
That's
started.
ridiculous,
I just don't like it because parents put their kids in a bad spot.
Well, exactly. Hey, go out there and get a selfie and then text me from jail later.
Yeah. What if? Yeah.
I'll come
what if
get
the
you
guy
out.
just decided I'm going to tase this kid or break his arm or do something?
That's another good point. Who knows how security's going to respond to that? Yeah. And in the end, again, it worked out. It's a kid, innocent kid. He went out there, got a picture. Messi handled it well. They got him out. But I was happy because I knew a few people that went down to the game, bit the bullet, bought tickets.
Yeah.
And they were really nervous, thinking this guy's not going to play. And then when he went in, that's just an incredible bucket list moment. You get to say, I saw Messi play.
Right.
I saw him dribbling live in a match with my own eyes. That's an incredible bucket list item. So credit to Messi, Miami, MLS for actually getting him up here and playing. And, Toronto FC, they missed the playoffs. They're done. See you later. It's an ugly year. But
ugly.
Nonetheless, hopefully next year it's better and Messi will be back and it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris Johnston here in a moment. We are giving away Leaf tickets this year, as we have been doing for many, many years. In the past, we've done, guess that Leaf. We've done different clues on naming lineup for a week, all that kind of stuff. This year, we're getting a little bit more creative.
Yes.
All right, we have sent Al's brother out somewhere in the city of Toronto with a pair of Leaf tickets. And you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. All right, so there will be clues Monday through Thursday.
This is like a Where's Al's Brother?
Where's Al's brother? Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the world is Al's brother with Leaf tickets? That is Al's brother here.
Love it.
Okay, and there's going to be a different clue each day, and by Friday we'll open the phones, and if you know where he is with those tickets, you're going to get the tickets.
Perfect.
And you're going to go see a Leaf game. So let's get to the first inaugural Al's Brothers clue.
Hey, Leaf fans, I've got my hands on a pair of tickets I'm looking to give away for this weekend's home opener between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's right, Sidney Crosby, Kyle Dubas coming back to Scotiabank Arena. And I've got some tremendous information to help you find out where in the world is Al's brother. Your first clue of the week. I am currently in a building that opened its doors in 1954.
Ooh, he's inside a building that opened its doors in 1954, somewhere in the city of Toronto. So that could be anywhere, man. That could be City Hall. I don't know when the Hall of Fame opened up.
Distillery District, maybe?
Possibly. Is there something down there? Casa Loma would have been before that. I don't know. I don't have a clue where Al's brother is, but he's somewhere in the city. Tune in tomorrow for another clue. The first caller through this Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets again to see the Leafs home opener Saturday night. Sidney Crosby, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Cool.
It doesn't get any better than that. To start your year home opener on a Saturday night with Sid in town, it's outrageously good.
Yeah.
Full details at tsn1050.ca. All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN Hockey insider, Chris Johnston. How you doing, CJ?
I'm doing well. That Saturday game also means there'll be lots of shots up at the press box, too, for the manager box.
Yes. Do you think that – how long does that have legs? How many more seasons of Kyle Dubas returning to Toronto? Because we don't really do that with Lou Lamoriello anymore, I don't think.
Not at all.
You know, how many more years do you think we do that with Dubas coming back to Toronto?
Good question. I think it's still relevant this year. But, you know, you're right. Probably over time, I think people are forget about it more and more and move along. But I'm willing to bet. I'm not producing that game, obviously, but I bet that we'll see a few shots in the Penguins box.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And I wonder if it's because of the news recently that Pierre Engvall's on waivers, Justin Hall's on waivers.
Available
like those were
both going to be claimed by tomorrow.
Two of Dubas's favorites, and it doesn't look like they'll be playing in the NHL anytime soon.
Yeah, and you had Zach Aston-Reese today, former Leaf. James Reimer moved over. It was a bad waiver week if you were a former member of the Maple Leafs.
That's true. I forgot about James
Reimer got claimed by Anaheim.
Oh, that I did not see.
Yes, I believe. I'm pretty sure I saw that just as we were coming on.
I think John Gibson is banged up, and they got that Lucas Dostal, who.
So Reimer's going to Anaheim.
Good for him.
There you go.
You know, it
Yeah,
prolongs.
I think it was an appendectomy, I think, for Gibson. So I don't know how long his stint there will last, but obviously some veteran help for them while they weather that absence.
Now, as for the Leaf front and the current GM, Brad Treliving, he signed Pacioretty to a deal, Steven Lorentz to a deal. So those two were on PTOs. They're both playing. We believe they'll be in the lineup tomorrow night. What do you make of the decisions to sign those two guys and the actual contract details?
Well, I mean, it ended up where about we expected. I think that both came to camp with a reasonable understanding that there was a job there for them as long as they held up their end of the bargain. And, I think it was pretty clear. I mean, Pacioretty, if you remember, scored right in the early preseason games. Lorentz, found a role where he's going to play when I think he's in the lineup on the fourth line. And so, the writing was on the wall in a positive way for them. And I think, what it means for the Leafs is I actually look at this as a deeper team than the one that they had last year. I think there's certainly more competition really in at the forward and defense spots, but, focusing on the forwards. I mean, you've got Bobby McMahon, looking like he's going to be a scratch to start the season. Kelly Yarncroke is out still. But, I think that they run 14 or 15 forwards deep where they're pretty confident and happy with what they have there. And as I said, it does extend a little bit to the back end as well, where looks like Timothy Liljegren's going to start the year not playing. And obviously he was really most of last season when he was in the lineup was a top four option. So, I think they've managed to create a little bit more competition around the margins of the lineup and obviously hope that's going to carry them a little farther than where they got.
CJ, that's where I was going to go is the back end. So Connor Timmins right now seems to be in that sixth spot, if you believe that Benoit's the fifth. Liljegren on the outside. Hakanpää seems like he's coming along, progressing after, whatever injury showed up, wasn't available early on. So do you envision something where if somebody grabs that spot, it makes another player expendable where potentially Brad Treliving would be open to a trade or maybe moving a player early on just based on availability and maybe not cap circumvention, but you're going to have to be cap compliant. Yarncroke's going to come off at some point. You've got some players that are going to be available to you, but you all have to fit under the cap.
Exactly. I mean, and it remains a giant if, but if they get fully healthy at some point, there's going to be decisions to be made. I mean, there's no way around it. Those decisions could be as simple as potentially waiving players, sending them to the AHL. It could be, trading someone off the roster. But, The one danger, I guess, of assuming that is, it seems a lot of times teams start this way, and then unfortunately, just the nature of the sport, other guys go out, and you maybe never get to the sort of decision day where you have to make that kind of call. But I mean, the Leafs basically have 9 defensemen right now. Like, don't forget Philippe Myers, who's probably maybe the biggest surprise at camp, the fact he's on the opening day roster. I think when we went back to mid-September, there would have been very few people out there that would have been calling that. And so he's in the mix on the right side. And clearly, Brad Treliving and Craig Berube, they like big defensemen. I mean, they've gotten much bigger on the back end. They've got options there. And, there's certainly a world if Hakanpää gets healthy, if Järnkrok gets healthy, and there are other injuries, that they're going to have to either waive players or trade somebody out of town in order to create the cap space to make that all work.
What are you hearing on Jake McCabe and the Leafs and his contract status moving forward?
Well, certainly there's been a fair bit of discussion there about extending him. I mean, I don't know that it needs to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. He's still got one more year until he's unrestricted, but he's a player they like. And, I think there's some potential danger with that contract just because of his age and some of the others they have with players. You don't want to go necessarily too long. And so it's about finding the sweet spot. But, last I heard, it didn't sound like there was a massive gap or anything like that between what the Leafs were thinking and what might work for Jake McCabe. And so I would say, I guess, stay tuned on that one. But, certainly he wants to stay and they want to keep him. And usually when you have that kind of approach to negotiations and you've got a pretty long runway here, I mean, it's only natural to assume they're going to be able to figure something out.
With Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey insider. So first camp with Craig Berube, he's got this presence to him that it has a very different vibe around the team. And I feel like he's rubbing off on my perception of this team where, they've been a veteran-laden team for years, yet they just look and feel a little bit different for me for some reason. And maybe it is because some of these new guys, maybe it is because of the size, maybe the depth. It's not even about wins and losses. That's completely irrelevant in the preseason. But it kind of reminds me of like the Pat Quinn days where like Quinn just had this presence where he was big. He didn't say a lot. And that kind of is what Berube gives off. Like, what he's done in the past. You know who he is. He's very cool, calm, collected. He doesn't say a ton. His voice doesn't change much. Like, are you picking up on that, CJ? And if so, does it really mean that much? And how much of an effect could it have on the way this team actually produces this year?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head in that it'll be some way that the fans, start to think about the team. I mean, the head coach speaks at least once every day, sometimes twice a day or more on a game day to the reporters. I mean, by all intents and purposes, they're kind of the representative of the organization in the media. And so I think, you expect the team to take on some of that personality and certainly the way people look at the team. And so it's only natural it would be that way. And, with Berube, I think you get a little bit of snarl there. Not to say he's always angry or anything like that, but he certainly, if a line of questioning, I was there earlier this week for practice and our buddy Jonas was pushing him down a road he didn't want to go down. And there was some pushback there, which I like. He's a very straightforward guy. He gets to the point. You're right. He doesn't waste his words, but, I find he meets topics head on. And so, I would think you're going to ultimately, the top of the lineup is going to be the top of the lineup, but maybe there's going to be different definition to the way the bottom six is, the way some of the end of the bottom pairing defense is, and obviously how he wants the team to play. He's asking them, I think, to try a slightly different style. Certainly more north-south is a big, catchphrase that he's using, where obviously some of their skill players are good at going side to side. And so, we'll see how long that takes and how that feels. But I think from the outside, Brian, more people are going to feel like you, that there's just a different feel because the messenger has changed and the message looks and sounds different than his predecessor.
You think Ryan Reeves plays every night?
I don't, just because of his age. But, I mean, you would think he's going to have a better shot to stick in. I mean, even the fact he's part of, the lineup for Wednesday and someone like Bobby McMahon's on the outside. I mean, I think Ryan Reeves has a role in the team, but I think he's 38, if I'm not mistaken. So, I have to think at some point they'll find, on back-to-backs maybe, or depending what the other team's lineup looks like, find times to give him some rest. But, certainly no indications that his spot on the team's in any danger, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I could see even the back-to-back he doesn't play in Jersey. Like, I can't think of someone that, well, I guess they picked up someone late in the season last year. Was it McDermott that can fight?
McDermott, yeah.
Yeah, McDermott's there and he can go. Like, he's playing tomorrow because I think they'd want him in the lineup anyway, but Jack Guy's playing. Jack Guy's been causing a disturbance for everyone he's been playing against.
Right.
And it does feel like that role, CJ, I don't know if it ever left, but it does feel more prominent and more highlighted again in the NHL, at least in the Eastern Conference, where almost every team feels like they need someone that, when in doubt, can fight any heavyweight in the league.
Yeah, I agree. It's swung back that way. You're right. I'm not sure if it ever was fully gone, but it feels a little bit more back than it has been. The Atlantic Division in particular, we saw, very physical games between the Canadians and Leafs, but also the Canadians and the Senators. And the Metro is the Metro. I mean, ever since Rempe arrived with the Rangers, he clearly, for a guy who was playing 5 or 6 minutes a night, made a pretty big impact. Had a lot of people talking about him, and had other teams. I think that's partially what led to the McDermott acquisition by the Devils last year. So it does feel like there's a bit more of that there. And when you talk about Craig Berube, I mean, I don't think there's any mistaking it. Not that he's necessarily looking for everyone to fight, but he wants his players playing physical, and I think it's going to be one of the hallmarks of the division this season.
With Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. So the Jeremy Swayman contract gets signed before the new year starts, so he doesn't lose a penny.
Right.
He gets his full no move, no trade, I believe, $23 million in signing bonus or whatever, but $8.25 per year. So he's under Hellebuck. I'd say that's a Bruins win. Like it would appear to me that the Bruins held their ground and at the last second gave him an extra $250 a year or whatever it was, and they forced him to make a call, and he made a call and he decided, I don't really want to miss time. How do you read that negotiation? Who won, who lost? And furthermore, how long do you think it'll take him to get into game shape and actually start producing for the Bruins?
Well, I was of the camp. I was thinking it was a bit of a Swayman win. I mean, maybe not a decisive one, but part of that Cam Neely's quote, the 64 million reasons to be in camp. Well, he ended up with 66 million reasons to sign before opening night, and so the Bruins did have to stretch themselves, I think, a little beyond where they wanted to go. But the reality is, it's stacked. The deck is stacked against you as a player. If you were to miss days of the season, like, you're just going to lose money that you can never get back. And in Swayman's case, for this contract, it'd be $43,000 a day is what he would have been giving up with every day he missed unsigned. And so, maybe in the end, it was a matter of him just taking the offer that the Bruins got above that 8 years, 8 times 8, got to $66 million, and decided it was time to give it up. But, I think he did well for himself by taking them right to the 11th hour, and, ultimately getting the kind of deal I think he can live with, I think is going to, be good for his family. And also, look, it takes away this guy's obviously played with a chip on his shoulder. It's been a huge part of his story. Kind of came up from out of nowhere in Alaska and was a low draft pick, and even his local college team didn't give it a chance. And then the Bruins take him, he ends up in arbitration last summer. I mean, he's got security like he's never had before. And so, it's hard for me not to think that he ended up on the good end of this. And, the question, Noodles, is probably better to answer. I have no idea what it's going to take for him to get up to speed. I mean, he was skating with Boston University there and going through his reps, but obviously that's nowhere near the same level of competition as a NHL training camp or preseason games or things like that.
I think it'll take a couple weeks. Like Korpisalo can start some games and get them into the season. He's got to get practicing with the team, with the goaltender coach, all of that, just acclimate himself back with the group. But CJ, I was going to ask, whether it's a Swayman win or not, it sounded like, again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but it seemed to be reported that he was asking for 8.5 and they were at 7.8 and they got to 8. Don't you? And then it got public. Don't you think this? I don't know if it was handled properly, if that makes sense. Because if it was that close, and I know that's $750,000 apart on an 8-year deal, but they ended up sawing it off in the middle anyways. Like, don't you think they could have sawed it off in the middle behind the scenes and not had to take it public and it get contentious and then Louis Gross has to make a statement and, hey, we're not sure what we're going to do? To me, they could have avoided this mess had they kept it kind of behind the curtain.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I'm sure everyone wishes that that's what happened. I mean, it certainly got a bit messy. It was obviously emotional, stretched over several months, their talks, and the stakes are pretty high, obviously, for Swayman when you're talking about that kind of money, but even the Bruins, this is a big season. He's an important part of their team. And, maybe the one thing I didn't add in there when I was saying why I thought it was a Swayman win is just, I think he looks like an awesome goaltender. His numbers stand up well to his peers, but, he's just never done the number one job full-time before in the NHL. And to get 8 years of security at a position where that's tough enough to do in general, to get paid, I think he's fourth most highest among the active goalies if you take Price out of the equation in terms of his actual yearly salary. I mean, it's a pretty nice contract for someone who still, I think, has a degree to prove that he can handle the workload and play something like 50-plus games. I know that goalies don't get used to the same degree they once did, the number ones, but he's now getting paid like a difference maker, and he's got to make that difference. And so to get that security before he'd ever shown it before, I think it's not to be looked past, because lots of things can happen in a career, whether it's a turn in performance or injury issues or what have you.
Yeah. And again, it applies to forwards and defensemen, yet they get their money all the time. And I guess my thing is Hellebuck should make more than Swayman. Yet
he's done 2 Vezinas.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't know what Swayman is as far as games played per year yet.
But we do know he has his whole career out of him.
Right, he's 25.
Where Hellebuck was 32 or whatever when he signed his deal.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, that's another thing. It's like he's given 8 years. Let's say this guy does turn into a 2-time Vezina winner.
Right.
Then he's going to be shortchanged in the end. But I guess, good on both sides to get it done. I am curious to see how he looks, though, because the pressure's going to be on him to perform quick.
Well,
like that market now, you fought for every penny you got. If they come out of the gate slow and he's bad, that is going to get ugly quick.
CJ, I don't know if you've watched his episode on the Face-Off or whatever.
Is he?
He's in. He's one of the guys.
One of the main guys?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So Pasternak and Nylander, but then there's Swayman in there, and they spend time with him Game 7 leading up to it. He's playing the guitar, and like he seems like a goalie, like a unique guy. I like him a lot, but there's a lot of pressure, but I like his mentality. He's pretty laid back, and they followed him, even the loss to Florida, and they just everything about it. Like I liked Face-Off, but I don't know if you've seen it yet, CJ. He is a unique personality, like very, very confident. He's got some edge to him. But he embraces.
I like that.
He embraces,
especially in net, man. You better have confidence in net, or you're in big trouble.
Awesome. I don't mean to be a spoiler, but one of my favorite scenes with him, they actually were in his hotel room hours before Game 7 against the Leafs, and he says to the camera, "Let's not make any mistake here. I'm playing for a contract," and he used some swear words, but he said basically, "I'm going to be a bad in net tonight." Like he was not. It's the day of Game 7, and he's talking about his contract. Like I just couldn't believe that.
Yeah,
and I think it's a real window into what drove him, through last season.
Yeah, he said I don't know if I'm going to allow a goal. Like he said something like that. He goes like I'm going to be a bad MF in the net. Like it's like this guy just
he only gave up one, and the Willie goal that's a tough goal to stop. I mean, yeah.
But it was very, very impressive.
What was Samsonov saying before that game?
Saying, Joseph Woll, you're playing, and then all of a sudden it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Pardon, Walls? I just ordered room service. Wall's not playing tonight? Okay. And he's not playing for a contract, too. And he is down in Vegas.
It was just different. But, CJ, I thought I really enjoyed that series. Like, I enjoyed...
I got to check it out. I haven't seen it all. But
being a fan of hockey, it's nice to see behind the curtain some stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see the opinion on Nylander's bit, because they do interview him, through the migraines, all of that. And I've seen some blowback on Twitter, people going like, why is this guy
jumping up and yelling and screaming?
Watching the game when shouldn't he be in a dark room or whatever? But to me, it shows the personality of Willie. He seems like just a good guy and walks his dogs and hangs out, pretty laid back. Like what you see is what you get with him. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it looks like his life in Toronto's like mine, except he's got a few more zeros in the bank account.
Exactly.
He seems like a normal guy, taking the TTC and hanging out at his local corner store.
Yeah, pretty relatable stuff, that's for sure. Quickly, before we get you out of here, Easton Cowan was sent back to London. I don't think it's ultimately a surprise, but what do you think the messaging would be? He's done basically everything at the junior level, and what does he need to do next year to actually make the team?
Well, I think it's just go down and the focus obviously is just on some of his defensive habits and other things. I mean, it's not, it's hard situation, right? I mean, we've seen other players in this spot where you feel like he's done everything he can in the OHL, but it's the only place he's allowed to play this year other than the NHL. And so, I'm sure that they reinforce the things they want to see him work on. They're going to tell him to go have a great time at the World Junior Tournament for Canada, and that they'll be watching him. And, another year older, another year stronger and more experienced, come training camp next year. And I'm just going to fast forward and guess we're going to expect him to make the team next year. And so that's really what it was. He didn't make the decision hard enough on them ultimately. I mean, he just didn't get his legs under him the same way he did last year in camp. And I think it was a pretty easy decision from the organization by the end of it.
Yep, I think that's the truth. All right, CJ, we'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Talk soon.
Chris Johnston joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right. Ryan Dempster coming up. You got the Tigers hoping to tie things up with the Guardians. It is currently 0-0, bottom eighth.
Wow.
So we'll catch up with Dempster on that. And Yankees-Royals tonight, Yankee Stadium. Yankees leading 1-0 in the ALDS. We'll get his take on everything he's seen over the course of the weekend, including Ohtani, first playoff games.
Yeah.
And the Padres beat up on the Dodgers last night.
That was ugly.
Yeah, it was.
Fans were involved, too. It got gritty.
I know. They were throwing stuff on the field like morons.
Yeah,
I mean, it's game 2, and you're the Dodgers. Like, you've won a lot. Like, act like you've been there before. I just feel like those the bigger rival is Dodgers-Giants, but you always see fights online between their fans.
Yeah.
Like, you always see Dodger fan, suckers, Padre fan, suckers, Giant fan.
Yeah.
Like, the three of them just hate each other.
Just going after it.
It's constant.
Yeah.
So Dempster will join us on that. Best bet still to come Monday nighter tonight. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, best bets later in the hour. Going into the ninth inning, 0-0 Tigers Guardians. I wouldn't say it's a must-win for the Tigers, but they got to get those positive vibes going again, right?
Yeah.
Like they were the hottest team in baseball. It was the most fun story through August and September. They get in, they go down to Houston, they beat them in 2 games, and then they got crushed in game 1.
Yeah. Cinderella story, but you
got to keep it alive, the Cinderella story, right?
You don't want it to get crashed.
Here's a longtime MLB pitcher, host of Off the Mound, and intentional talker, good buddy Ryan Dempster. I'm sure you've been on teams like the Tigers, Dempster, where it's like, it's a good story. You guys are flying in October or August, September. You get into the playoffs. Like, you can't allow it to fall off at any point, right? Like, if you're a good vibes team, you got to make sure it's pretty consistently good vibes. You lose the first 2 in the DS, that could be real trouble.
Yeah, I think it's good vibes for everybody in the playoffs right now. I mean, vibes are great, and they are vital right now. You just got to figure out a way to execute. And game 1, they got put behind the 8 ball with a 5-0 lead early, and then it was kind of hard to come back. Like, that's the thing about Cleveland. They have some pretty darn good vibes going there, too. First-year manager and a bullpen that's as good as anybody in baseball. So they got their hands full, but this is what it's all about. When the Cy Young winner, potentially, if it's not him, it's the guy pitching the top of the ninth right now, then for him to go out and do what he did today, at least you got a chance. You got to try and figure out a way to put a run on there. So vibes are important, and everyone's got them going.
They sure are. And you mentioned Scooble. I mean, he was talking smack. Like, there's great video going viral. Him yelling at the crowd in Cleveland, tell him to shut up. Did you ever partake in any of that activity when you were coming off the mound?
I'm sure there's a few times where I let my emotions out, but that's okay. If you're feeling it in that moment, let it loose a little bit. And, you just have a little bit of adrenaline, and he's a pretty cool, calm, collected guy most of the time anyways. And that's a big start. You know, to start against his buddy Matthew Boyd, who was a mentor for him, coming up, and you know, a guy he's known since college, and to go against your buddy in that game on that stage with your team down one, man. What a stud this guy is. He's absolutely kind of a little old school too, guys. The delivery, you know, it's arms and legs coming at you. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Kovacs almost.
I'm going to slide over to the Dodgers-Padres matchup. Seems like it got a little bit contentious, or was that more just the fans getting contentious with the Padres? Because it seemed like it was
got ugly at Dodger Stadium.
A little bit ugly last night.
Yeah, it did. You know, it did get ugly for a second. I mean, I don't know why people think that it's okay to just start throwing baseballs at players, you know, because your team's losing, or why because he's still home. He didn't talk any smack when he stole the home run. He just stared him down a little and navigating a crowd to tackle. But I love the response. You know, they have the meeting and they said, "Oh, you want to throw balls at us from the left field bleachers? Cool. We're going to give you a bunch to throw back at us." And they just proceeded to go out and whack home run balls into the left field stands like crazy. I don't know if I've seen a better response from a team in that environment ever in any sport. You want to do that, and then we rally around and we go ahead and say, here, we're going to try and hit you with the balls, but they're going to be off our back 400 feet away.
Yeah, there's some serious hatred out there, man. We were saying this before you came on. Like the California teams, Dodgers, Giants, Padres, there's always issues, and there's always fights. You know, and you've seen some great rivalries like Cubs, Cardinals, and Sox, Yankees, but it feels like those California fans, man, like they really have a hatred on for each other. Have you picked up on that throughout your time? And what do you make of, like you said, fan reaction when you're out there? How are you supposed to handle that kind of heat?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a thing. I felt it as a player. I've seen it, you know, in front office, being in the stands and listening to the fans out there. You have a general overall kind of tough guy attitude, and then you involve liquid courage, and then everybody starts. You know, I was joking around the night before. I predicted the Pete Alonso homer in Milwaukee a couple nights ago.
Yep.
In our work group text, you know, I was like, "Oh, here comes Alonso homer." And I don't do that a lot. I don't just throw homers out like crazy. I just felt it, you know. And then last night I said I predict a brawl in the parking lot after the game, and one of our guys on our text was like, "Dude, whoop-de-doo. That's like you're like laying double the odds to get back. It's like a 2-to-1 you have to lay."
Right.
That's a guarantee it's going to happen. I just, unfortunately, it's a part of sports fandom that I think is ridiculous. You know, we're going to get in fights because of what? Our team lost because we drank a lot. But it's one of the dynamics that you walk into when you go to a place like Dodger Stadium. I've seen it as a player, and I've seen it firsthand as a fan.
With Ryan Dempster, of the two New York teams, Yankees or Mets, who do you think has a better chance to get to the World Series?
I think both of them do. I think we might have a reunion of 2000.
Really?
Both. I just think that that the Yankees are definitely good enough. If their bullpen can, you know, shut guys down, and with Weaver closing right now out of nowhere, it's been kind of a godsend for them because Clay Holmes struggled so much. But offensively, they're a juggernaut. They're loaded, and then, you know, starting pitching, they got really, really good starting pitching. So, and then the Mets there's some magic going on. Whatever that, when you talk about mojo and the Tigers mojo, I think that maybe the Mets mojo might be the greatest one going right now, just for the fact that it's New York. There's obstacles that you don't necessarily face in a place with like Detroit with media and all that kind of stuff. So I think they got something pretty incredible, but they also got their hands full with a really tough Phillies team.
That's where I was going to go. Does that mean that Phillies team, you don't think that they can get it done, or it's just the Mets just have too much mojo over top of them?
Well, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt because I'm talking to you and I'm following the game, and we just have a home run by Kerry Carpenter to make it 3-0 off of Claude, who I think's given up 3 runs all year. So the mojo is definitely for real, and it's for real in New York, and they're feeling it. Whatever they did on that plane ride back from London on the way over, if you look at that trip that they went and played Philly in London, they won that last game. They won that game, and then they came back, and something happened on that plane flight. They came together as a team really well, and it's showing itself on the field. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, we had John Gibbons on the other day after Alonso hit that home run, and Gibby said it. He's like, there's just something about this team right now. We're in a really good spot. Like, we feel good. The boys are, your best players are playing well. Lindor's had a great year. Alonso obviously, came alive, and there's just, I don't know. It's been a consistent theme with this conversation right now, is just kind of the mojo going. Because if you're in the dance, you're a good team. Like, obviously, you're a good team. You played 162 games, so you got the goods. It's putting it together.
And then as you get there, each and every time you get further and further, the teams just get better and better. Like, that's what happens. So, like, when teams that run into, like, now you're all there. Now you know you can play with anybody. And the competition is so important. You can't give extra outs. You have to get the run in when you can. Pitchers have to make big pitches in situations. You have to make the play defensively, because sometimes during the regular season, you're playing a team of the quote-unquote lesser variety. You can get away with mistakes because your pitching is good enough, or you can come back offensively. You start getting to the playoffs, every advantage you can get and any mistake you make. But all these teams in the dance right now have a shot, and this is why we love it. Like, yesterday, that Mets game, all the stars of the game, the Schwarber, the beginning of the series, and the Alonso home run, and then last night, Harper, and then Castellanos. Like, these are the stars, and that's what we want. The game is these players are what we watch, and the best players are what make the game great, and they're all the ones showing up on the biggest stages. Like, even today, they talked about it in the broadcast all game, man. That the Guardians don't want to face Terry Carpenter, with the game on the line, because he's the guy with that big bat and their left-hand side. What do you do? He puts 3-run homer today.
Yep.
That's why the storybooks that happen during the playoffs are so amazing and so special and so much fun. That's why we're all glued to the TV and we can't turn away.
That's right. And we'll let you get back to it. We appreciate you finding a few minutes for us. We always love having you on. Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely, guys. Keep enjoying the playoffs. We'll talk soon.
You got it, Ryan Dempster. And Ryan obviously knows what it's like to play playoff baseball. And he, like he said, man, the Tigers just hit a 3-run home run top of the ninth. That's huge. You go back to Detroit Game 3 and it's tied 1-1.
Okay, so I was in
massive.
Detroit on Friday calling a game, and they said that Detroit's home opener, I believe, is Thursday, the Red Wings.
Yes.
And the Tigers could be playing at 6:05, and the Red Wings opener is at 7.
That's exactly what will happen, because they'll have an off day going home. Game 3 will be Wednesday. Game 4 will be Thursday. That's right.
Game 4, the Red Wings, like, that jams up the Red Wings.
The Wings are going to get, but you know how close it all is.
Well, it's right there. It's across the street.
They're right next to each other almost.
That's a tailgating, Can
you imagine if the Lions were playing Thursday night football? Like, you wouldn't possibly be able to make that work. Downtown Detroit would just collapse.
Yeah.
But
we were in the rink, and they were telling us, our buddy Ken Daniels was.
Yes.
He said it's a 6:05 first pitch, and the Red Wings home opener is at 7 p.m.
Wow.
That's tough.
That is really, really tough. Because, both buildings will be packed, but you're going to get a lot of Red Wing fans who will have their eyes on the baseball game.
Well, yeah. Because
naturally,
you're a fan of, yes.
Game 4 of the ALDS or Game 1 of the season for the Red Wings. Come on.
It's tough.
That is really tough planning. There's no way of predicting it. And again, the Tigers were out of it in July.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sure the Red Wings were like, hey, this is great for us.
Yeah, no problem. Thursday night.
Let's do it. There's no way the Tigers are playing at home.
Crazy.
And that place will be packed, man.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about October baseball. Detroit's got the same weather system as ours.
Right.
So it's probably been pretty nice, but they don't have a roof at Comerica. Same thing in Cleveland. That's why they're playing in the afternoon. You play a game at 8 o'clock, it goes to 11:30, midnight or something like that.
Yeah.
6 degrees out there. And this is the DS.
Really.
You get to the World Series, it'll be freezing, and they have to play in primetime in the World Series. You're not starting games early, so you get some sun in Detroit.
That's true. I forgot about that.
If they get to the World Series, you're talking, 2 weeks away? It's getting dicey at that point.
It could get dicey.
For playing outside.
You could see snow at some point.
Yes, you could. It's conceivable you could see that. Same thing in Cleveland. Same thing, I guess, in New York.
Yeah. That's why you need a dome. I'm telling you.
That's the thing about the Jays. You can say what you want about the Rogers Center. If you have a ticket, they're going to play.
Yep.
They are going to play. There's no rainouts. None of that's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel coming up on the Monday Nighter tonight. We'll get to that more next. All All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Looking at the game tonight, Chiefs money line. Okay, kind of like the Chiefs to cover, but I think it's a tricky game. 5.5 has been a really tricky number in football this year, and the NFL has been backwards, man. It's been bizarro. World, the amount of losses from good teams, the amount of like upsets, like outright upsets, not just covering.
So are you all right with their pick then? You would have.
I think it can make some sense. I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Right.
And if they're going to win, then I could definitely see them covering the 5.5.
Right.
But I thought the Niners would win yesterday. Arizona won.
Yeah.
There's a number of games that have happened this year that have been truly shocking, and the Chiefs are winning, but just getting there.
Yeah.
Like just doing enough to win.
Yeah.
So I like the Chiefs money line. Alvin Kamara, 25-plus yards receiving tonight. And Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. He's got to get in the end zone.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, they need him, and I think it happens tonight.
Yeah.
Monday night, Arrowhead, that place will be rocking. I haven't seen if T Swift will be in attendance, though.
I don't know. I think she's back on, tour, isn't she? And she's supposed to be...
Is she? I thought next time she plays is up here in like a month and a half.
My understanding, I thought that she was... The last couple times she's missed games, it was like she was gearing up for the tour.
Okay.
So maybe that was
very
just
convenient.
Excuse.
All right. Well, I don't know. You'd like to see her there tonight, but maybe it's not going to happen.
Well, they made it through the September 28th breakup date. Remember?
Yes, the premeditated. Be prepared on how to handle this breakup date.
So
they're still
fine,
alive.
but we haven't really seen her that much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it maybe they did break up, and they got to pretend that wasn't premeditated.
Yeah.
So Chiefs money line, Kamara 25-plus yards receiving, and Kelce anytime touchdown paying plus 321. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel is the home for popular parlays this NFL season. Please play responsibly. 18-plus, physically located in Ontario.
Love it.
All right. NHL's starting up tomorrow.
Yes. We'll
right?
be tuned in to watch.
Breaking down Seattle and St. Louis tomorrow afternoon. And again, the Tigers, have they finished their game? They were up 3-0. Kerry Carpenter hit a go-ahead three-run shot in the top of the ninth. 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. Looks like the Tigers are going to close that out. Yankees Royals tonight. That's another thing. The Royals are playing, and the Chiefs are playing.
Pretty
First
cool.
pitch 7:38 and kickoffs like 8:25 tonight. Like
Same city. So the Royals are playing in Kansas.
Royals are in New York.
Oh, in New York.
So it's not, but still, if you're at the Chiefs game, you're watching the Royals.
There'll be people watching it on their phone.
Absolutely.
Game. Yeah.
And the same thing again. If you're a Red Wing fan, you're going to be watching the Tiger game.
Yeah. It is tough. There's nothing you can do, but it's nice to have a city where you've got sports.
Lots of sports
in the playoffs. Right?
Exactly. Like if you're a New York sports fan, you have multiple teams going.
Yes.
You're either a Yankee fan or a Met fan, Giant fan or a Jet fan.
And you're dying for the Jets for Aaron Rodgers to get his act together.
Like if you're a Jets-Mets fan, yesterday you saw them both play and they both lost.
Yeah.
That's a tough day.
That's our buddy Joe Plasargent. What's the
guy's name? I can't remember. But he's a Giant fan, I think.
Is he a Giants fan?
Yes.
Don LaGreca.
Or he covers the Giants, I believe. He covers the Giants because he was talking about the Giants.
Yeah.
And their offensive line with that rant.
Yeah. The Joe Plasargent theorem. You're dead.
Yeah. Big fan.
That'll hammer it home. And he does a lot of Rangers stuff. And I guess the Rangers are starting on Wednesday night at the Garden, I believe.
Panarin back skating. So that's good.
Panarin was banged up.
I can't wait for the season to start, and then you get the injury reports. Like guys have been just limping to the finish.
I know. That's the reality of the NHL. I mean,
I thought I read Nashville, Tampa. I just had a game canceled. Another preseason.
That was a preseason game.
Yeah,
because there's another hurricane going through.
Scary stuff.
Really scary stuff. Well, and I guess Florida tomorrow night at home.
Yeah,
because I've been reading. It sounds like that hurricane's going to hit on the Gulf Coast on Wednesday.
Right.
So I think they'll be able to play the game tomorrow. But it's more about the team like Boston getting out of there.
Yeah, I talked to a buddy who lives in the Miami side last night. He just said so much rain, but it sounds like it's heading on the Gulf side.
Yeah,
so
it's scary, man.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Like hurricanes, it's just constant down there.
No, jeez.
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, Tigers win 3-0. Series tie going back to Detroit. That's great.
Go.
That's awesome.
City of Detroit.
And I'm pulling for Kansas City tonight. Get a split and go back to Kansas City for Game 3 on Wednesday night.
That'll be fun.
Absolutely. All right, Monday nighter tonight on TSN. Should be a fun game. If you're wondering, Timo and Wilson, they've taken the points. They're on the Saints plus 5.5
This
tonight.
guy wasn't 100%.
Oh, well, generally rides with the favorites.
Right.
Like he kind of is like got a Don King vibe to him, and he it's very uneasy not taking the
He
Chiefs.
just goes, he goes with
Whoever wins, whoever's the best team. Now he's a Washington Commander fan. The guy's Don King.
Don King.
That's what he is.
Forgot him. That guy, it didn't matter who would win in a boxing match. Don
who he's
King would
leaving
be in the
with.
corner.
Yes. He'd come in with the one guy, he'd get pumped, and he'd leave with the other guy. Is Don King.
Yes.
All right. Good stuff, everyone behind the scenes. Thank you for helping out today. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.